Hello guys, it's Joshua, and today we're going to be creating this scene from Infinity War where Thor jumps up and does a superhero landing. So this is actually going to be breaking up into two parts. The part one being the actual superhero jump with the dust and the cracks and the animation and all that, and then the second one just being the lightning. So yeah. So a few things you might want to do to make it a little bit easier is shoot on an overcast day, because there's not many times lightning comes from a blue sky. Not many at all, to be completely honest. And another thing is you want to, if you can, shoot at 4K so you can have this digital zoom afterwards to make this animation just look a little bit better. Yeah. Get your footage, bring it into a new comp. Oops. An autosave. And this is my footage here, so it's this camera panning down, and then I started to walk backwards. So if you don't want to do that, you can just pan it down and then hold it there and then digitally zoom it out afterwards, which is the same thing. I'm going to click the footage, track camera, put advanced, and then detail analyst just to make it a little bit better. And another thing you want to do is actually film yourself jumping up. So I filmed this at 1080p 60 frames per second, and I had my tripod set on a higher point to look down. When the actor is on the ground, the camera is pointed towards him, so you can see like the top of his head. The reason for this is because you want to match the perspective of what the camera is looking. So if I was down here and I'm at a higher point, you would see down on the person. That's that. And what I did was I just jumped off a little stool thing I found, hit the ground, and then stand back up. And what you want to do is you want to cut yourself out, so you have just a rotoscope version of it. And an easy thing to do is don't do it when your guy's jumping up, only do it when your guy starts to fall, so it matches the movement of actually falling down from the sky. Yeah, back to the main footage. So after your footage is tracked, what you can do is you just find some points on the ground here, which is what we want. You want to find a spot where you want your person to land. So right about there is where I want it. Create a null. Name this to main null. And I'm going to scale it up just a bit so I can get a little bit better. And the way this works is I'm going to create a new null, make it 3D. I'm going to grab the 2 and then parent it to the null. Just like that. The reason I'm doing this is because if we go into 2 views, this is the null way out here. We want the null to kind of be in this black area. It makes a lot of things easier, and you don't have to scale things up a huge amount. So if you go to the null you created, you can just scale the things down. Scale it to like say 5. You can also move the camera if you like. So now you can see my camera's flipped. That's because this track took a few frames to get used to it, so I'm gonna actually trim this. That. So now it's just the camera. And you can see the null is still stuck to the spot we want it. Right. And then change this to 1 view again. You can actually get rid of this null. Now it's just the null, the tracker, and the footage. Here we're going to go up to projects. We're going to grab the rotoed out version of the person. And I'm going to drop a few things. I'm going to add a brightness and contrast and just bring down the contrast, just to composite it with the footage a little bit better here. Go to levels. Smooth over. Bring it down the highlights a little bit. This is just, yeah, like I said, to composite it a little bit better. Alright. So what we want to do is actually hide that for now. And we want to find the spot where we want. Change this to half for now. Find it, the spot where we actually want the person to hit the ground. So you can see the camera's panning and then it slows down. The rate is panning and then it's kind of slows down. So I'm going to hold shift 1. This is where I want my guy to have his axe hit the ground. Okay. Turn this layer back on. I'm going to rename it to Roto. And you can see that the footage is going way out here. That's because it was 12 seconds. I'm going to go to composition, composition settings. Increase the size, so I'm just going to put 16. Zoom out. And now you solo it. You can see the full amount of time it's got. Alright. I'm going to go right click, time, enable time remapping. And what I want to do is I want to find the frame right before my foot hits the ground. So you can see it's going, and then my toes start to bend. I'm going to go one before that, drop a keyframe, and then I want to find the spot where my axe hits the ground. There's the other one. And this second part here is I'm just doing it because I spend 6 seconds on the ground before I actually stand up. So I want to speed that up. So I'm going to put a keyframe there. And then I'm going to move these there. Now, after the 3 seconds, I'm going to stand up. Extend that just a little bit further. So what we can do now that we shot 60 FPS is we can move these and it won't really affect the footage as much. So I'm going to move this one closer to when I hit it. That one a bit closer too. You can also bring your comp back down. So move your little thing here and then trim comp to work area. What we want is we want them to float in the air for a little while and then hit the ground quickly, kind of like that. I don't know if it's quick enough. Yeah. Alright, so if we unsolo that, next thing I want to do is I want to move the anchor point to about where his hand is. The reason for this is so you can actually rotate it from the right angle. You'll see it in a second what I mean, but just move it so it's on kind of the ground. Make it 3D. Copy the position of your null, so click Control C, go to your roto, Control V after it's a 3D layer, and then I'm just going to scale this down. So hopefully you can, best is actually if you go and take a reference photo so you can see, but I'm just going to kind of eyeball it and see if it look too tall or too short. This is 16. So that's what we have. So now we're actually going to animate the position. So when he moves, you can have him hitting the ground. What I like to do is the one frame before or after the keyframe, I like to click Shift P, bring up the position, drop a keyframe, and then go to the very beginning. And I want to drag this up in Y, move it over, put it back into 3D space a bit, and then maybe move it up. And this is the animation part. So we have him falling and then coming in. Bad. Move it up. The higher you move it and the further you move it back, the quicker he comes in. So I like that quite a bit. And if you move these keyframes closer from here when you're in the air to hitting the ground, will be a little bit quicker as well. If you want him to like really hit it quick, that's how you do it. So after I've done this little RAM preview and moved the position, you can see that the guy kind of looks still. A little thing you could do, hope that is if you click on the footage, click U to see where your keyframes are. You can drop a mesh warp, and I like to do it a few frames before you actually hit the ground. I'm going to do distort mesh and then change the 17 to like 15. Move it to the beginning, and then you just want to just move the things very slightly. You don't want to exaggerate it because it won't look real. I'm just going to move his foot, pretend like he had his knee a little bit more bent. That up. So click over here. So this is frame 1, and then by the end it'll look like that. You can do this with pretty much a lot of things. Like I'm going to get the axe, bring it down, and his hand a little bit. So this, kind of see. There's a little bit more of an animation with him now. So his hands moving a little bit more, and his legs moving a little bit more as well. You can see before and after kind of thing. So I would recommend doing that. Just add a little bit more movement in as well. Minimize that, hide that. And now we're going to do the shadows. So if you click a new, solid, make sure it's white, call it floor. I click A on the keyboard to bring up the anchor point, and whatever the second number is, you want to double it. So this is 1080, so 1080 times 2 is 2160. This puts the pivot point on the bottom. I make it a 3D layer, grab the pickwick, hold shift, and drop it to the main null there. Click R, kind of rotate it here. And how this works is wherever this is where the shadow will be. So you're not going to have anything over here. There's no point of extending it way over here. So just kind of position it where you want. Alright, so put that under there. You get the roto, duplicate it. Get rid of things here. Drop down to fill. And this is going to be called the shadow maker. That under the roto, off. We're going to create a light. So if you go to new, light, I'm just going to create a spotlight with these settings are fine. And what I want to do is click AA on the shadow maker. Change it from cast shadows to on, accept shadows to only, accept lights to off, and turn up the light transmission 100%. Minimize that. Go to the floor, press AA, and accept lights to off. So now we have the shadow and the floor. And I want to go to toggle switches, change this the floor to multiply. And then I want to grab the roto, turn it back on, with AA, and then accept lights to off. So now none of the lights are affecting this person here. Alright, so now I want to actually move the light. So if you click P, you can move the light to match the perspective of the scene here. That kind of looks like, you can see the lights obviously coming from over here and the shadows are pointing in this direction. I'm going to grab the shadow maker and then I'm going to change the color. So if you grab the little eyedropper, do one of these blues, go to the floor, press opacity T, let's kind of lower it. You see it's not really that blue, so I'm going to actually increase it a bit. Oh, that's not too bad. Dark. Now we have a shadow coming in from over here, following the direction. This just adds it a little bit more realism to make it actually look like I'm been there and actually jumped. From here, I'm gonna minimize those two things, and I want to create a little shockwave. Over at Action VFX, they have a few dust waves that are free to download. I'll have their website in the description for you guys to check out. So here's a few that I found that I kind of like. So this one's Dust Wave 3. What I'm going to do is drop it into the layer. I'm going to click time remapping. I'm going to solo it so it's the only thing. And I want to find The problem with these is they take a little while to get to its final spot. I'm gonna just kind of keyframe here and here, move it over so that when this is when he's about to hit the ground. Then move this closer. So now it'll be really quick in the beginning and then slow down. Also, I'm gonna click G, do just a quick mask to get rid of that bottom seam. And F, and just feather it a little bit. Then drop down to demult, get rid of the alpha channel. Now it's just black and the gray parent. If you don't have demult, you can download it for free with Ignite Express. I'll have the link in the description as well. It's a free thing where you get 90 free plugins, and demult is one of them. And it gets rid of the black layer, so then you can have an alpha layer. And I'm going to drop down a tritone just to make it kind of look like snow. I'm going to make this white as well. Click A on the keyboard so I can bring the anchor point to about the middle. You can kind of see, you might not be able to see it there, but you can see that the feather is way too high. You can see the seam again. I'm going to bring up the feather and lower it just a bit so you don't see it as much. Alright, toggle switches, make it 3D. Make sure you AA on it and accept lights to off so that the lights aren't affecting it. And then you want to do the same thing where you click P, grab the position, Control V, and then you have the dust wave there. What you can do actually here is, since he's coming at such a high velocity, he actually could be moving the snow. So you could have it start a little bit before he hits the ground. But I'm going to move this, scale it down. It's behind him now, so I'm going to move it forward. It's not bad. Now I'm just going to kind of scale it up. So if you click, you can do it by grabbing the little hands sides here, but every time I try to grab one, it doesn't usually work. So another way you could do it is just unlink it and then scale it this way, scale it up. But I like to scale along the sides a bit more, so did a bit more of a stretch. And I'm gonna click T, gonna lower this. It's not as bright. Move the mask up. Feather it more. You don't want it to be too noticeable, because the more noticeable it is, less real it looks, in my opinion. So I'm gonna add a fast blur just to kind of blur it out. Now you can see comes in, some snow comes. What you can do is you can actually duplicate this, go up to the project, and if you have another dust wave, you can hold it, hold Alt, and then click it on the duplicated footage you click. And what this will do is it'll replace the other one with it. So now it's second shockwave, which is 7, and it'll have the mask, and it'll have all the effects of the other one, and just speeds up the process just a little bit more. From here, you can click R. You maybe rotate this one. It's not in the same position as the other one. And now back on. Actually gonna scale this one back in a bit. Alright, you can see my guys coming in, hits the ground, and then the snow pushes away. Exactly what we want. Next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to grab the cracks And what I did is I just found a photo online of some cracks here, and just downloaded it, and then I'm going to use that. And if you have any white in the background, you can see there's a few white spots here. I'm going to go to Luma key, go brighter, and do this until, alright, click the 3D layer. I want to parent this. If you hold shift, you can do it to the floor, and then you can just kind of scale it up, scale it down, move it. And for the cracks here, I didn't want them to be too noticeable, so what I did, I'm going to change it to full so I can see the full resolution here. Put this under everything. Is first change it to soft light. I turned down the opacity just a bit, and then I added a fast blur. Gonna blur it in, so let's try 5. Bit too much. 3. Too noticeable. Also ink. And the way I have these come in is when he hits the ground, just simple like opacity keyframes here. Change it to 0, and then within 2 frames be 100. So now you can see we got myself flying in, hitting the ground, some snow or dust, whatever you like, and then the cracks kind of appear. They look kind of funny now, but in the next step, what we'll do is we'll grab everything, holding shift, recompose, and we're going to call this animated layer. And this is where we're going to do the animation. So if we go to composition settings, change this from 4K to 1080p. And what I want to do is find. So the easiest way to do this is the frame before you hit the ground. You want to add a position, hold shift and then S and bring up scale. You want to keyframe both of them, and you want to scale them up quite a bit, so that by the time he hits the ground, that you can zoom out and maybe have it go over here. Now we have it's close up and then zooms out when he hits the ground. You can also highlight all these and press F9 to ease them. And then from here, go to the beginning, find your actor, and have them down. Your actor goes, you can see how my actor goes up and then comes back down. Fix that, what you could do is actually just like move them down the keyframes, so you just have more of them. But you don't want to add too many keyframes because then it starts becoming jagged and you'll move up and then down, up, down. That's not too bad. I'm actually going to get rid of this keyframe, go to this one, and lower it. Scale it in just a bit. Alright, and then that's the kind of animation we get. Coming down, hitting the ground. And what you can do is go to the very end and then position this how you want. Zoom it out. Down. So then it slowly zooms out over time. There. And another thing you can do to sell this a little better, if you follow what the switch is, go to this motion blur, turn on the motion blur. Now we have motion blur with both me and the camera movement to just make it speed a little bit quicker. And move this around. Yeah, that pretty much wraps up the part 1 to this tutorial. You have the superhero part. You have them come down, hitting the ground, dust coming up or snow coming up, and then there's the cracks there. And yeah, so part 2 is going to have the lightning following him when he's in the air, and then the lightning also coming out of him once he's on the ground, and then just random strikes coming around. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any other tutorials you want me to do, just send me a message or leave it in the comments.